Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jeff Boughton. I am Kowa's representative to the birding and nature markets in the United States. But again, as I mentioned, we've got a great group of folks from all over the world here that know more about digiscoping than probably just about anybody in the world. I mean, it's really quite a great group of panelists that we've got going on here. Um, so to begin, what I'd like to do is toss out an introduction and let each of our folks give a little bit to tell you about themselves, maybe show a picture or two if they'd like. We may, because we've got so many panelists, we may have to play that by ear and come back to something like that as we can. But at any rate, welcome. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we're all going to learn a lot about digiscoping today. So let me begin. We'll toss the ball out to the first guy that was on. Simon Brunby is our champion from the Netherlands. And Simon, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us all about yourself and a bit about how you digiscope and what your preferred methods are.
Yeah, cool. Simon Brumby. I was born in the UK and raised in the northwest of England, and moved to the Netherlands, and obviously been here ever since. Always had a fascination with nature ever since I can remember, playing in my grandfather's garden, eating mud and bugs and things like that, and getting disgusting in ponds. And then my father's cameras I remember very well, and my father's binoculars I remember very well. And then, just as you do, you progress and you come back to bird watching and wildlife and things like that. And then you buy a scope, and then all of a sudden it's, well, actually, I can combine the scope and the cameras, and I can share the things that I'm experiencing here in the Netherlands with my friends and family back home in the UK. That's how it basically started. Was, hey, look, Dad, I've seen a red-footed falcon. You don't get them very often in Chester, do you? No, the answer is no, you don't. And yeah, more frogs. Just the soil here is different to how it is back where I was born. So everything was an adventure. Every time I go out into the wild, there was something new and something worth sending back home to share with people. Okay, so that progressed. I bumped into Paul via social media, Paul Mr. Hackett, and I kind of spiraled out of control there in onwards, using the Kowa scopes and Micro Four Thirds cameras, compact cameras started off with, and it was always a question of trying to get the best out of the equipment that I had, trying to get better images, make better images, make better images. And I fell into creating video with this equipment. It's very, very powerful equipment. The scopes and telephoto system that I use with the prism on the end of it, it's incredible. It's comparable to the highest end optics that you can buy anywhere. The difference is that instead of spending lots of money on electrics and things like that, it's all manual focus. So if you're not used to that, it's a little bit of a thing. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on further, but yeah, that's basically me. Digiscoping whatever I see. I love video, and generally that's where I am. But stills is also a thing because hey, these cameras make beautiful still pictures as well. So yeah. So Jeff was talking about, as a birder, you kind of see these things in the moments. This is a spur wing plover, and it's called that because it's got spurs on its wings. And with the invention of high speed, high frame rate videography, you can now play these kind of things back and see them and share them with your friends. Sam Martin's coming into Nest. It's really all manual focus, all from a tripod. So you need to plan, set up, and just be patient and have an idea of what shots you want to create. And then you can get better results in that way. It's familiarity with the equipment, as well as the surroundings where you're working. So that's a middle spotted woodpecker feeding plums to its youngster. What did I skip over? This is a hair raiser for me. Pygmy owls, but it's that shrill. This is the first time you hear that shrill call. It just sends all the hairs on the neck stand up on end. just a really pure moment. This is the duck I was talking about within close focus, handheld lying on my belly. Again, it's just familiarity with your equipment and with your surroundings to try and get reasonable results. All manual focus, so sure he's bobbing around on the water because it's pretty breezy. It's not exactly entirely stable. So yeah, that's it. This is all with the Kowa equipment. Some of it's with an 883 and some of it's with the teleprism. But it's just reveling in the things around you, enjoying what you're seeing. It's Digiscoping it comes from a lot of, I hate to say amateurs, but there's a lot of people who are not paid videographers or photographers, and you can create just stuff which is worthy of being on television or worthy of going into a short edits and things like that. You've got to love what you're doing and just have a little bit of understanding of where you're going, and the things you can create are just fantastic. Where can we go? Did you see this guy crossing over the water?
There we go. Yeah, let's get him.
Yeah. Again, this is a question of I knew the beast was there. I knew where he was going to be. Didn't expect him to swim across the water, but just there at the right day at the right time. And these guys are so skulky that they don't want to break cover. They'd rather swim low to the water to get from one place to the other without breaking any cover. This is importance of good neighbors. Again, local patch. In a couple of weeks, probably, maybe 6 weeks, it's absolute chaos. The black-headed gulls are going to be feeding on the tern chicks, and the colonies are right on top of each other. And this is all technology that most people have at their hands. Okay, so my camera might be different to what you're using, but you can do these kind of things. Yeah, the color grading's off, and if I want to talk about the all the tweaks that I should make before I was going to do anything with it other than just show it on here, image stabilization. But what a moment, This is
Yep.
1500 plus millimeters, so it's about 30 to 35 by zoom, all manual focus, all from a tripod from the bank, and that's 10 kilometers up the road from where I am.
Perfect.
Central European treekeeper nest building. Nest building is a really time when you don't want to be anywhere near birds disturbing them. So yeah, you can set up with the equipment that we've got, the Digiscoping stuff, and you can just sit in a bush or under a tree, miles, 200-300 meters away, out of sight, and let things just behave naturally. And you can, it's meditation almost. You're transporting yourself to right where that bird is and enjoying that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Perfect.
I don't know. This is another clip that I put together for a while ago. This is all stuff locally to me. All things that you as a Digiscoper, with the equipment that we have, with probably most of you guys have, these are the results that you can create for yourself. Obviously, you need to know how it all fits together a little bit, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't do this. I've been inspired heavily by several Digiscopers from America because the light is just fantastic. And the light we have is perhaps not quite so forgiving, shall we say, but we do get beautiful blues and beautiful oranges whilst sun up and sun down.
You guys always pick on us people from Florida. Come on, you make it seem like we're
no, it's cheating out and outright. It's just cheating. You live in Florida. It's cheating. I mean, congratulations, you picked the best place to live.
Yeah, it's good for Digiscoping. All right, let's bounce to Anna. Would you like to talk a little bit? Introduce yourself. We're gonna introduce you to everybody, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna continue these webinars, just so you know, to let everybody have actually their own full workshop, down the line if they so want. But Anna, would you introduce yourself, and we're going to go to Spain now and say hello.
Yeah. In Spanish.
Perfecto. Sí.
En inglés no, porque no voy a introducir nada. ¿Qué digo?
Puedes contar qué haces, y el equipo que usas para introducirte a la
Vale,
comunidad.
pero me lo traduces tú, ¿vale?
Dale.
Bueno, pues mi equipo es muy sencillo. Yo tengo un Kowa 884 con una anilla Kowa TSN de A10 y un adaptador que me hizo un tornero catalán.
Okay.
Y adaptada a una cámara Canon S95.
Okay, she's Anna. Anna is from Spain. She used a Digiscoping Avid. She used a AA4 Kowa scope, and she attached there was a Canon
S95.
S94 and with the adapter from Kowa. And she got a friend that she made a special adapter to fit the Canon on it.
Sí, hecho por un tornero. Y verdaderamente es que tampoco, bueno, muchas veces hablo con Paul, que me dice que cambie, que tal, pero yo es que estoy muy contenta con mi cámara, con mis resultados. Sé que es una cámara que ya está antigua, pero estoy muy contenta.
So she been receiving a lot of advice from Paul Hacker from she updated her equipment for a new camera probably, but she feel really comfortable for the result of her camera and equipment. So she's saying now for now and she keep shooting with that.
Tengo además 2 cámaras, por si acaso.
Actually, she said she got 2 cameras just in case. You know?
Yeah, she didn't want to be caught without anything. Perfecto.
Perfect. You wanna share, Ana, ¿quieres compartir alguna de tus imágenes? ¿Tienes listas o algo?
Uf, deja, que no sé cómo hacerlo.
So she wanna try to see how she can share with us some of her work, one of the pictures she had. So let's see how it goes. Pues sí, ahorita mirar cómo puedes y nos dice si puedes compartirlo o enviárselo a Jeff y Jeff puede, o a Robert, uno de los muchachos puede colaborarte con eso.
Vale, no pasa nada. Prefiero escucharos de momento. Mis imágenes están por ahí, por todos sitios, volando.
So she said she wanna try, but anyway, you can guys find her on the media and see all her work with the Digiscope equipment.
Eso es. Pero vamos, que una cosa sí que quiero decir, que sobre todo mi pasión son la naturaleza y las aves.
So something that she wanna really like put on is that she's a nature lover and fanatic for birds. So even mind if you wanna go check her work.
Y que lo que persigo sobre todo con mi fotografía es dar a conocer a la gente el mundo de las aves.
So she tried to with her work, she tried to spoil the birds in her nature environment to the world, to the people.
I can share my screen if you like, and I can show some of Anna's photos. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Simon.
You're welcome.
Mi abubilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Anna's no slouch. She's serious, as you can see. Very talented digiscoper representing Central Europe.
Yeah.
WeChat.
Great shot. Muy lindos.
Yeah, it's super. Anna uses her car as a blind, I think, right? So she shoots out she uses.
Oh yeah, she showed from the car. Yeah, que si tú disparas todo lo que haces desde el carro o te bajas del carro.
La mayoría de mis fotos las hago desde el coche.
Oh yes, Simon. Most of the picture from the car. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I do.
Me conozco los lugares así alrededor de Madrid y me gusta, pues eso, ver el comportamiento de las especies, esperar.
So she knows a lot around Madrid area, so she know the behavior, how the when the bird's gonna be. So she go and wait for it. Got this amazing result as you can see from
Yeah,
her car.
perfecto.
Mostly.
So, hate to cut folks off, but we're dragging a bit, so we got to bounce a little faster to make sure we've got enough time for Q&A. Luis, since you've been talking, we're gonna go. This is Luis Bles from Miami. Give us a quick introduction, just who you are and what you do, so we can get through everybody.
Okay, yeah, I'm Luis Gles. I'm native from Colombia. I'm a naturalism. I'm active tour guy. I lead tours on North America, the Caribbean, and my homeland, Colombia. And I'm crazy about this Cooper because as a tour guide, give me always the chance to show the customer or the people more like more details on it. And sometimes most of the customer are really like old people, like not old people on advanced age. So for them are hard to see through the scope. So I use the adapter on my phone. So as soon as I put on the screen, it's really easy. And at the same time, I'll be able to capture that moment. So for me, it's like perfect combination. And the AA4 for me, like most of my tours are in the tropics. So always low light condition, all those, items that you have problem to get really good results. But the 884 is amazing for that. Give me a lot of light, and with the phone is really practical. So that's why I became like addict. I don't use more camera. I got my camera and always even touch it. Just my phone, my binocular, and the scope. So that's like most
Podemos
of
ver.
my. And during the fall months, I'm hogwash counter, so you can probably see me on the Florida Key Hogwash. I monitoring the raptor migration, and have the biggest. We are the best spot in the world to see the Peregrine falcon migration. We come over 500 during the peak of migration daily. In 2015, the site got the world record with 1,500 plus Peregrine falcon migration over. So, and I've been getting all with the scope. So it's kind of.
Let's bounce on. Someone asked in the Q&A, we'll get a couple of these, what Anna shoots with. She said she's shooting with the Kowa TSN 884 and a Canon camera. Yeah? DSLR.
Ana, no,
Dime.
¿con qué cámara disparas? ¿Con una Canon?
Canon.
Yeah.
Canon,
La
Yeah.
Canon PowerShot S95.
Canon S95. It's
Okay.
Canon S95.
That's 95. All right. Let's bounce over to the UK and Paul Hackett. Paul, if you give us a brief introduction, we'll make it through the intros, and then we'll, if you can hit off some of the Digiscoping stuff as well along the way. We'll promise we'll get to everybody. Okay. Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Paul Hackett. Just past the age of 60, and for 22 of them years, I have been Digiscoping. Loving birds from a very young age. I was the bird doctor when I was a child, where people would bring injured birds to me and I would fix them, feed them and release them. Being in the UK, I got into rare birds, or twitching as the English UK word we use, twitching all over the UK for rare birds. And this got me into Digiscoping. So Jeff, my first scope was a Leica Apo with a 20 times wide angle eyepiece and a camcorder, high 8mm attached to it. And I told the story last week, but when I got to the twitch, because I had such extreme magnification, I could only get the bird's head in. So I was literally Billy No Mates walking a field back just to get the whole bird in because of the supreme magnification. We then went on to various bits and pieces, going along to the bird fair, the Rutland Bird Fair, which sadly we won't be attending this year. And I was selling adapters for one of the guys, Eagle Eye Adapters, many years ago. Then joined Carl Zeiss, the Zeiss Scopes and Binocular people, and I was a UK rep for a couple of years. And then now I've been with Kowa 10 years. And through that, I've basically covered all the formats of Digiscoping. So original was the camcorder on tape. Then I went to a Sony little PC100 camcorder with the memory cards with a 1 megapixel picture. Can you believe that? 1 megapixel. Went up through the Nikon range, really got into the Contax U4R compact cameras, went through the Sony range, the Sony RX100s, Mark 1, Mark 2. And then I found Micro Four Thirds cameras. And I've been using Panasonic now for about 5 years. I'm actually a Panasonic ambassador as well. So people say quickly, what is my rig? What do I use? So my rig is this wee fellow, which is the 884, with an extremely long plate, so I can get the proper balance when everything is. Because what you have to remember, people, is the scopes and the tripods originally were not meant to take the weight. So to get the balance right, so the scope isn't falling backwards, you need to get the balance. Number one tip. So let's go to the cameras. Let's demystify some of this as well. People get quite thinking. This is my choice for the moment, Panasonic G9, 4K video, and obviously fully automatic and manual modes. People say, how do you connect this? So I've got a 20mm pancake lens. I then have the adapter, the Kowa D810 adapter, and what we have is a ring, a step-up ring, which connects the adapter to the lens. We then have an inner sleeve where we take off the eye cup and we attach it, so that when we attach everything together, everything goes on. So that's how, trying to really demystify stuff. There was a question asked by David Church last week, and his question was, what about manual? That was funny, wasn't it, Molly? Right, so I use this kind of manual lead to take the pictures. Some people use Bluetooth. With the Panasonic cameras, you can actually use the mobile phone to trigger it as well. Okay, thank you there, Simon. So, yeah, Simon's got a trigger there. And also within the Kowa range, don't forget the PA7. We talked about that last week as well, where this piece goes on the eyepiece, this goes over the zoom, and then you put a T2 mount on there and bayonet of your choice for all the cameras. Okay, Jeff, I'll leave that there because we're trying to get around people. Hope that was a quick introduction.
Sounds good. Well, hopefully we'll get back to you. Robert Wilson, would you like to talk now, sir?
Hey, everybody. Hey,
Jeff.
I'm really honored just to be included in this group of world-class Digiscopers. I came to Digiscoping about 6 years ago. I had retired as a photographer at Lockheed Martin for 30 years, and I bumped into a scope and became fascinated with the telephoto capabilities of a zoom. I was not a birder. Anything in the sky was a bird to me 6 years ago, and thanks to this group of people that are not only amazing Digiscopers, but fantastic birders, they've taught me quite a bit, and I've learned an awful lot. My main rig, I use a Panasonic GH4 with a 20mm pancake lens. That was a great introduction there, Paul, because that's the thing about Digiscoping. You can read so much about it, and that's what I like about Kowa. It's an entire system. They make a couple adapters, and they all work really well. In addition to the camera, I use a iPhone 10 that I've come to enjoy tremendously, to my surprise. As Luis suggested, you can share that image with people, and everyone just gravitates to that image on a phone when you put it on a scope and show them a bird 50 yards away. So I use both. Neither one, specifically. I'm just a maniac photographer that's become enamored with Digiscoping.
Molly, would you like to introduce yourself? Molly Brown from Nighthawk.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. How you doing, Molly?
Good. So I've been birding in some capacity for my whole life, a lot more seriously in the past 10 years or so. So I'm coming at Digiscoping from a birder perspective first, and I just do it with my iPhone. And I like it because, and I'm using the 773 scope too. So first off, I just like the convenience. I really don't like carrying a lot of stuff in the field. And it's great to cut one thing out. I always have my phone on me and just have the scope and a really light system that I can take around and don't feel like I'm weighed down. But I really like using it for the storytelling side and to just show the behaviors of birds too. And Simon had talked about this. I mean, when you have the birds in the scope, you can see their behaviors and not interrupt what they're doing at all, and see them when they're completely unaware of your presence. And it's great to use Digiscoping for that too. So yeah, I'm just using very basic phone to the scope. I do have a mirrorless camera, so that'll be my next step. We'll be getting that hooked up to my scope as well. I'm shooting with Olympus too, and I've just had that a few months, so that'll be fun to try out. But yeah, that's a really quick introduction.
We'll get you an adapter, Molly, so you can start playing with that as well. And that's one of the good things that we've got, I think. Robert.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention real quick,
Yeah.
you know, being a retired photographer and that being so critical to me, the reason that I like the Kowa products and why I use them and promote them so much is that the fluorite crystal in the 883 scope, it minimizes chromatic aberration like no other scope out there. It's the only scope that uses the fluorite crystal, and it minimizes chromatic aberration better than any other scope out there. And then the eyepiece that comes along with the 883 and the 773, in my opinion, is the best eyepiece out there for the reason it's a wide angle eyepiece, and also, in my opinion, from the tests that I've done, it holds sharpness and clarity much better at the 60x end of the zoom. So, you know, go Kowa. That's why I use those products. They're just amazing.
Good point, Robert. And you know, he's not alone there. Honestly, the National Audubon Society, when they did their roundup of the spotting scopes a couple years ago here, the Kowa 880 series with the fluoride lens took top honors in the premier scopes as the best performing spotting scope. So it's not just us, it's coming from the independent. And then our 550 series, our compact scopes, also won, and not surprisingly, it's the other scope we have in the line, in the Prominar line, that has that pure fluoride crystal, excuse me, in it.
Very quickly, just to I won't talk about myself as Digiscoping for the moment, but I just wanted to show, we've obviously been talking about the distances that you can keep away from without disturbing the subject matter. So I just wanted to very quickly, just so everybody could see some kind of reference as to what that means in terms of distance. So there we go with, yep. Can you see this picture I've got here? This will only be very quick, just to give you some sense of focal lengths. 38 meter distance here, and there's a seagull there just on the cliff. And that's with using the PA7 with a full frame camera, and that's the equivalent of 1,000 millimeter focal length. So you can see how far I am standing away from that bird there, and that's the kind of detail at minimum zoom. That's pushing the eyepiece right up to 60 times, which gives you a focal length 2,450 millimeter. I mean, you get into the point of you need the weather on your side to control these kind of focal lengths. This is using an APS-C, so like a Canon EOS 70D or something similar. Minimum focal length 1,600 mil, maximum 3,920 millimeter. And this is micro four thirds. Obviously, you've got the crop factor there. 2,000 millimeter minimum, up to 4,900 millimeter. So I just wanted to just very quickly show you what the sort of the focal lengths that are achievable with this system. Did you want to see? Did you want to see anything about the accessories, Jeff?
Yeah, if you can find it quickly. If not, we can come back to you. We've had a number of questions on, as you're pulling that up, on, sort of I'm having problems getting a pretty picture, to briefly summarize what's my problem. And answering that question is really difficult, and all of our panelists can help with that. But the first thing you have to do, unfortunately, you have to be a bit of a photo detective, and you have to decide, is this image vibration, and is anything in the photo in focus or not? Or is it a focus issue where maybe something just behind or just in front of your subject is in focus? These are all things you have to do, and you have to do it kind of one-off, like I say, and look at these photos independently for that, because you can't answer the question. It's just like if you have a problem with your car and you call a mechanic and say, my car goes clunk, 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 what's wrong with it? They have to run some diagnostics and figure out exactly what the problem is, and then can tell you the solution. We'll get back to that and get some of the opinions of the panel in just one moment. But Rob, if you want to show the suite of accessories here, it looks like you've got that pulled up, because we had a lot of questions. Kowa has more adapting abilities and adapters than any other manufacturer to mount to our many scopes, and we make more lines of scopes than any other manufacturer, with 7 lines of spotting scopes currently. So go ahead, and we'll
this is the PA7, which we mentioned earlier. This is traditionally used with body only. So if a DSLR or a micro 4/3 camera, compact system camera, you normally don't use. You can use a lens with it, but there's no point getting into too much detail at the minute. Body only, straight onto the PA7, onto the scope body, and you keep the eyepiece in place, and you can use the full range of the zoom lens. T2 ring, that's the only thing that you customize that to wherever your camera body is. So that could be whatever, from Nikon, Canon, Sony, Micro Four Thirds. You just buy the T2 mount, and it just sits. It's very quick to take on and off, so you can switch back to normal observation. You can still use the full zoom. You can shoot portrait. You can shoot landscape. It's got protection glass in to protect your sensor on the camera. And it's got a standard 42mm T2 ring, which is what makes it so versatile. So even if you use multiple camera systems, you can still just have the one adapter. That's just a quick graphic to show. But obviously, we've talked about the system before. This is the extender. So if you want even more reach, you can put the 1.6 extender on. And because it uses the same accessory collar as the main scope body, all the accessories fit. So that's the real nice thing about Kowa. I'm going to skip through these animations. But you can see, but I mean, we will do more in-depth webinars just on this adapter, and we can show you all the hints and tips for getting the best out of it. But obviously, we're short of time, so that's the PA7. I'm going to quickly go on to the DA10, which we were talking about earlier. This is what Paul Hackett and Simon Brumby's preferred weapon of choice. This one, using the Micro Four Thirds camera and a pancake lens. It has the effect of reducing the focal length. So if Paul was to stick his Micro Four Thirds camera on the PA7, he's got a minimum 2000mm system there, which can be very hard to control. But using the DA10 with the pancake lens, you can reduce the focal length down to 1000mm, and also you can use a really nice pancake, like a 1.8 lens, which is going to be fast, lets more light in. So the preferred sort of what we recommend for Micro Four Thirds users. I'm going to skip these, else we'll be here all night. Just show you again. This is just showing you some of the focal lengths that you can achieve with the pancake lens. So 1000mm, 2400mm, 3840mm. That's using the extender. That's one of my shots. That's with the DA10. The nice thing about this is the perfect sort of image to show you what the lack of chromatic aberration. a black and white bird, if you've got a chromatic aberration, you're going to seize on a shot like that.
Hey, Rob.
Um,
Robert, it's the Robert Wilson. Hey, talk a little bit about the different millimeter lenses that are used on the different sensor size cameras, because I get that question a lot.
Do you mean the crop factors?
Yeah, so 20. If you're using a micro four thirds, you want to use a 20 mil pancake lens, and if you're using an APC sensor, you want to use like a 35 to 40 pancake lens.
Yeah.
And then a full sensor, you want to use a 50 mil. And it has to do with vignetting is all it has to do with.
Yeah.
But I get that question a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly. So with the Sony full frame or what, a Canon, whatever, 50 mil, and you would usually get a full frame image there. Obviously with the micro four thirds, because of the crop factor, 2 times a 25 mil or a 20 mil lens is perfect. And yeah, at APS-C. The only thing I would say about like the full frames and the APS-C is that it starts to get a little bit bulky at that point when you put the lenses on. But the thing I like about the micro four thirds is the bodies are so small, that the pancake lenses are so small, so it keeps the whole setup nice and compact. I mean, you imagine a Canon 500 mil lens the size of that thing compared to a Digiscoping setup. Yes, you've not got all the electronics, and you've not got the fast aperture, but if you're going to go out birding and you're taking your scope and you're trekking or whatever, it's just the ultimate setup.
Right. Let's
Jeff, can I say something?
Yeah.
To everybody out there who's just looking at this and feels a little bit overwhelmed, this is your one chance with all of us here to ask a question. And I really don't see a ton of questions there. This is your big chance to speak to any of us and put a question down quickly, and we'll do our best to resolve it, even if it means sending in an email, and we can do on a one-to-one. Right. I mean, some of us people are quite willing to do that and speak to you on the one-to-one, those that want to do it. Quickly, the question that David Church asked last week, just following quickly, he talked about, do you use a cable or Bluetooth? Yep. For me, the cable is always working. I've got a spare cable with me. He also asked about settings. In the briefly, this can apply to most of all the DSLR if you're using a lens, and the micro four thirds of the full frame. Most of us use aperture priority rather than manual or shutter. I will go to manual when I've got something sitting, it's not moving around. I want to bring that ISO down, but still not too low for me not to get camera shake. So quickly, Jeff, I just wanted to interject there, because we could just do with people joining in with us now. If that's okay with the rest of the group.
And also, we will do some webinars where we just talk technique, and we can really go into some in-depth detail. Then it's very hard to fit everything in this style of lecture, but we'll really cover the all the settings and everything.
Yeah, Rob, since you got the PowerPoint up, we've got a number of people asking in particular about phones. And, one of the phone questions that we had earlier was asking about, seeing shadowing on their imaging, and, asking, is this flare or the glare of the sun coming in versus shadow? And it could be either or. And this goes back to what I was talking about before about being a photo detective. Very often when you're getting light leakage and, you have an adapter that allows that doesn't put a good seal over between your camera and the on your phone and the eyepiece, you can get sort of this, usually shows up as sort of purplish or greenish discoloration, like a bit of a glare on a screen, but also you might get a discoloration in a blue sky in particular, where you get sort of a brownish smudge or a shadowed arc. Now, this is an indication that the lens in your phone is too close to the lens in the eyepiece and needs to be pulled back. And that can be done by raising your eye cup very often.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things when people say, I've got a problem with my photos, we say, well, send me a couple photos. Let's take a look at them and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Rob, if you want to show people some of our phone adapters, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's one of the key things with the phone. The eye relief on your eyepiece. It varies between phone models, so it's just to take a couple of minutes just to get the optimum eye relief on the eyepiece. It might be one twist back, it could be two, but you know when you've got it bang on because you've got a crisp circle rather than a shadowy, shady circle. You're looking for a crisp circle, and then you know that everything's aligned. I just want to show you something very quickly. This is the power of phone scoping. Can you see that the young seal there on the coast? Just highlighted it there for you. That's with an iPhone 6, would you believe? I mean, we're talking old technology now, but we printed that up to A3 size and we show it at exhibitions, and it really does make people that question the quality show something like that, and yeah, it just blows them away. It's the simplicity as well that does it for me. The nice, just show you very quickly, because our eyepiece and scope are so good, we crank up to 60 times maximum zoom, which would be unheard of for a lot of digiscopers in the past. But that's the equivalent focal length of 1,740 millimeters. And the way we work that out is you need to find out what your focal length is of your phone. So for the iPhone 6S is 29 mil. The eyepiece is at 60 times. It's just a simple calculation: 60 times 29, 1,740 millimeter. And we've got what, as independent adapters go, we've got the widest selection, right up to the latest iPhone 11. I'll just get that up there. So we've got support for right down to iPhone 4, various Samsung Galaxy models. And we're just expanding all the time. The nice things about these adapters is that there's no messing around with trying to get it to fit. You push your phone into the case, you use the right adapter ring, and it just works. It's the simplicity again. And again, we'll do another lecture just on phone scoping, and we can show you all. There's loads of hints and tips we can give you for that as well.
Let's move on to some of the questions while we got a few more minutes, actually. So we talked about light leakage. We've talked about a lot of these things, and I apologize. We're starting to get a lot of questions, and we're not addressing them 100%. A lot of these things that are specific to my specific camera and one specific spotting scope, we've got so many people on, it's going to be a little bit difficult to answer. What I will do to everyone that registered, though, we will send a link. Plus, we have the one email that you can respond to. And I promise you, we'll get all of these questions answered to all of you. A lot of the cases, as I said before, we're going to have to play a little detective. Rob Wilson, would you like to talk a little bit about keeping things steady, especially on the DSLRs? I mean, shutter speeds, as Simon indicated the one time, is a big problem. Can you allude to that and suggestions on how to stabilize?
Yeah, a very stable tripod is very important. So many people buy a beautiful scope and then they don't want to spend the extra money on a tripod, and they always come back and they buy another one. So very sturdy carbon fiber tripod with a pretty heavy duty fluid motion video head works well. Wind's always going to be your enemy when you're out, as everybody's alluded to. So fast shutter speeds, especially if you're beginning or if you're having trouble, creating sharp images, just start out with a fast shutter speed. Even though you're going to get more grain, the image won't be as tight, but it'll help you steady. You'll be able to get faster shutter speeds with a higher ISO. So start out with a high ISO, even 1600 to start with, and then practice your sharpness. Use a remote shutter release, as everybody said, and that's about it, really. I mean, the tripod's key. Too many people use a too light a weight tripod. I know many people are birders and they don't want to carry a lot of things, but to be successful, you really need a good tripod.
Jeff, can I just add one big tip from me on the phone scoping?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, a lot of people find that most times you want the sun on your back, which means then it's glare on the screen of the phone. And some of the new phones now have technology, they can be anti-glare. The thing that I use is a little Hudman loop, which you can buy. And this allows you to put it, it's basically the shape of a pyramid with something chopped off, piece of rubber. It goes over the screen. It's also got a piece of glass in it, and it's got an eye cup. And you've also got a diopter on it that's +3 and -3. So the biggest thing I think I see on the web when I'm looking at phone scope pictures is the sharpness, where sometimes you wouldn't have to even process that, because what I do is every 2 or 3 shots, I defocus the scope and go again. So maybe I've got maybe 40, 50 shots of that bird, if that's what you want to do. And by the time I've connected it to my TV, so trying to delete on a phone is much easier when you can see it on a big screen. And what happens is I go, number 1's my master, keep that. Number 2, sharper, delete number 1. I get to number 13, slightly different image, slightly different pose, keep that. And I just keep the best of the best of the best. So it's got sharpness as well. And also don't forget, people, with these phones, no matter what it's Android or iPhone, you've got this finger you can use on the screen to hold down the focus and the metering. And also the apps that we can buy as well, or the free ones. So for me, briefly and quickly, there's four approaches to this, be it a phone or be it a camera. First is your equipment. The next is your settings. The third is your fieldcraft to use those settings. And your fourth thing is post-processing. So a lot of the stuff you've already got on the phone. You can edit stuff on the phone. Snapseed for both Android and iPhone is free from Google. Download it, which means you can crop, sharpen, saturation, everything else. So I'll end it there, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's just a quick one because there was obviously people listening and trying to get some snippets. Is there any way we can answer any more questions at general?
Can I just grab this quick question from Scott Somersville? Which phone adapter for the 553 and which iPhone, from what level of iPhone? Basically, I would say from iPhone, from the 5S upwards was when the cameras really started to improve. So you can literally go on to, if you just want to try phone scoping and not have to worry about buying a £1,000 phone or whatever, go onto eBay, get an iPhone SE or 6 for probably 150 quid, and then all you need is the one of our adapters, and then the TSN AR66Z is the adapter ring that you need for your 553, and you're in business. That's
it. Any more questions we can answer? Any more questions? Come on. I'm just getting going now.
I've just put a bunch in the chat, so that's hopefully help. Yeah, just on that note, what you've just been saying, it's really important that it's fun. Yeah, digiscoping is it can be a little bit tricky, and there's, you know, like as we've just talked about, you've got a scope to contend with, you've got a tripod to contend with, and you've got your capture device, so your camera or your phone or whatever. So you're kind of, you know, patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. So in order to really get a feel for it and for it to be fun, just use the gear that's to hand and that you're most familiar with. And if that just means going out and just using your mobile phone and taking some shots on the light scope, on the light tripod that you've got, and then you go home and then you can practice with some of the free software packages for processing. I'm working half in Dutch and half in English, so I have to do the words. Yeah, so the most important thing is whatever's the most fun for you. I answered some questions already in the chat about what's the difference between straight and angled scope. There's no difference. What matters is what's comfortable for you. I use a straight scope, and Paul will use a straight scope, and that's generally because it's easier to locate the birds initially. It's through and through, so it's similar to how you'd be using a telephoto lens or something like that. So it's just marginally easier. However, Robert Wilson's using an angled scope and he loves it. Jeff's using an angled scope and he loves it. Like
Lewis,
I said, the most important thing is
I use angled scope because for my profession, it's easier to share because you can adjust for different, you know, people got different height, you know, people are more shorter. So for me, the wide angle give me more the performance to share for different like heights for different people. So it's much easier for me.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So there you go. That's what works for you. So don't worry about choosing one over the other. It's just choose whatever's the most comfortable for you.
That works basically, yeah.
You and whoever you're sharing with, and that's probably the thing that comes into play more than anything. If you're you know going to be sharing with a lot of people, or you're a couple sharing a scope, the angle becomes the weapon of choice more often than not if you're dealing with people of different heights, because it's very difficult to set the straight scope to the lower person's height, and the poor tall person has no great ergonomic way to crawl underneath that straight scope, and that becomes, I think, one of the biggest factors, is how often you share it probably. The thing I love about the angled, yes, it's less intuitive, but because of the fact that it's angled and ergonomically it's easy to bend at the waist, you can put it on a smaller tripod, a shorter tripod. It's a little lighter weight. Keep it lower with less wind resistance. Again, though, I'm birding primarily, right? And I'm capturing things along the way with my phone. I pull it out, slap it on there, take a couple shots, I move on to the next bird. I'm not setting up in a hide. I'm not going out saying I'm going to get great pictures today. The only time I've ever done that perhaps is Luis and I decided we're going to do a Digiscoping big day, and we went out and got a century run in my county last year. But that's maybe one of the only times I purposely went out with the thought, I'm going to take pictures today. Again, I'm just really shooting from the hips as I go along. I'm just fortunate to live in Florida. I have lots of opportunity.
Yeah, keep rubbing it in, why don't you?
We had a great fallout today, Paul.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Warblers, thrushes.
Amazing video warblers this morning. Amazing video. Black pulse and black to the blue warblers and full plumage.
Beautiful.
Boom.
So here,
Yes, but you forget, you American people, you forget there's that thing called the pond, right? And them little birds weighing 3 or 4 grams, they've got wings. And I've seen some of them warblers in the UK.
Yeah. Did you
Blue-winged warbler. Blue-winged warbler.
You see my video?
Yes,
So,
man. In
Amazing
England,
video. It was like 5
American
seconds.
bitten. American
All right.
bitten.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up. I think we're going to follow up with all the questions. I'm going to, all of our participants, all our that did sign up, we're going to send you a follow-up email that will include links to all of our videos. We've got over 107 videos online that address all the different aspects of Digiscoping, plus contacts information for the questions that didn't get answered, and lastly, what suggestions in particular you'd like to see as far as moving forward. We're going to have specific Digiscoping webinars because, as I knew just from how much talent we've got on this team and how many different opinions and how many people we've got, I knew this was going to be a challenge to get a lot into the first go-around. So we're planning on having specific follow-up sessions, probably one with each one of our specialists. Ana and Luis have already talked about doing one in Espanol for people in South America. So we'll rotate that out, and maybe we can even do some more fun stuff in the field. Until then, I guess I'd just like to say thank you to everyone and being patient with us. I know we had, it's a challenge to have so many talented people and so much to say in such a short window of time, but I promise you we're going to keep it going. So thanks for those that took the time to come and say hi to us from all over the world, and we will be back with more information ASAP.